obviously another good win on the weekend. I know we touched on post-match, but after another couple of days to reflect on it, was there anything else that particularly impressed you about the way you guys were able to come back on the weekend?
Yeah, it was interesting early in the game. We actually had more inside 50s in the first quarter. We just didn't convert those opportunities as well as what the opposition did. But it was an impressive, probably about halfway through the second, we were able to start winning the contest. We started to transition really strongly, and we were able to put the pressure on the opposition like we like to do for a bit longer than what we did early in the game. So those things added up to a really mature performance, and it's good to see some of the younger players in particular really identifying the moments and making sure that we take those opportunities as a team and work together to get back in the game like we did and then kick away.
On the first quarters, obviously it's something that's unfortunately become a little bit of a trend that you've been able to kind of counteract, but have you pinpointed anything in terms of the pressure that other teams are bringing early, knowing that the Swans are the team to beat and they come to the occasion early going, okay, let's try and bring it early? Do you think that's one of the main things?
Oh, it's probably a combination of a few things. There's never one thing in anything. It's always a combination of a few things. But as I said, we had actually more inside 50s in the opposition on the weekend. We just failed to convert those opportunities, and the opposition kicked a couple of really good goals from the boundary line. So it probably made it look a little bit worse on the scoreboard. But we're in the position to be able to set ourselves and keep on improving, and that's one of the things we can improve. We've still got some areas in our game we can improve on, and even though we've been really pleased with how we've been going, there's we take on Adelaide this week, who look really strong in a number of areas. They haven't had the results, but they're statistically and some of their stats have looked really strong. So that's something we were mindful of as well. There's always another challenge coming up.
John, we obviously knew you were getting an elite ruckman in Brodie Grundy at the start of the season. What's one thing that's actually surprised you, just in terms of how he's adapted here at Sydney?
He's actually brought in some stuff and added to us. It's not just him adapting to us. We've been really pleased what he's brought to us. But the thing that really stands out is how much of a competitor he is. He's just so competitive. His preparation from week to week is of a really high end. He spends a lot of time analysing his craft, and that sort of then flows into the game. And then once he gets into the game, he competes really strongly. He loves to compete and gets after the opposition, and adds another big body midfielder to our team really. So they're the areas that that we've been so impressed with that he's brought to the team. He just loves to be a competitor, and it helps our younger mids out. Our mids really understand and appreciate his presence around the scramble, and that makes a big difference to him.
That's a point actually on the mids. Do you think without a Brodie Grundy, the Chad Warners, the Isaac Heaney's, the Errol Gouldens would have had the season they've had without somebody like him giving them silver service? Yeah,
it's hard to say, isn't it? It's hard to say, I don't know, but what I do know, it doesn't hurt, and the ability for him to be able to have a big presence around the middle of the ground is significant for us as a team and our midfield group in general, and those particular players. His ability to be able to really, he had 21 contested possessions on the weekend. He chases, he tackles, he applies enormous pressure. He's a very good tap ruckman. He's got great experience, and so when you've got a younger type midfield, the ability for him to be able to lead that in a competitive sense, and others feed off it. Isaac's a bit more mature, but he's a real competitor as well. So, we value that aspect of what he's brought to the team.
I know there's a lot of plays that would have brought a smile on your face on the weekend, but to see Chad in that last quarter, with 3 minutes to go, sprinting through to the goal square as varsity's running throughout the whole game, do you think that sort of effort in the fourth quarter late in the game is what's kind of typifying the Swans this year, that you were fighting all the way to that last siren? Yeah,
we've been challenged at different times during the game, which you're going to get challenged, particularly by any team, but the Geelong are a really good, strong team. So when you get challenged, you've got to show the maturity and also the competitiveness to keep going, and that was pleasing from the weekend. We were able to, even that last quarter, get challenged, and the last 5 minutes could have gone either ways as far as if they got another goal, but we were able to kick again, and that was really pleasing. And Chad was one of those guys. Errol, those guys were able to lift another gear, and still with youth on their side. So they're learning in those moments. And once again, we go to Adelaide in a pretty tough environment over there, that they'll keep learning and hopefully keep developing and understand the moments in games when we need to tightened up defensively, when we want to win our contest, when we want to be strong without the ball, all those things. And on top of that, when we can go and try and hit the scoreboard.
What do you make about the discourse around the buys at the moment? Obviously, there's been a bit said about you guys having 2 buys before other teams haven't had one yet. I know Andrew Pridham came out and kind of pointed at the Brisbane example where it doesn't always go to plan. Is it just one of those things where I guess you've been lucky enough in this sense to have it, and when you've got fewer injuries and things like that, it's just making the most of it?
I think Andrew was just pointing out that it doesn't necessarily mean that's the only reason we've had a good year to date. I think that was Andrew's point. But I think in general, overall, I think the AFL, and I'm not sure whether anyone's asked them, but I'm sure that they'd be looking at that for next year. And everyone forgets that we went from 2 or 3 practice games. I think we had 3 practice games straight into the season. We didn't have one at the start of the season, so we went straight in. We had a 9-week block there that was pretty solid. We didn't have that bye at the start of the season that other teams had, but even that, I still think that next year it'd be ideal. It wouldn't be ideal if teams had 2 buys and some didn't have one again. I think in an uneven competition that's got disparities everywhere with travel and home ground advantages and all of that. It's not an even competition. Anyone that says it is not talking sense. But that could be one thing that maybe that we can control as a competition that might be worth thinking about for next year.
James Jordan is one of your senior recruits who's made an impact this year. Can you talk a bit about how that defensive forward role evolved with him?
Yeah, it was really interesting. We just said to him, "What about playing on this particular player this week?" And he said, "No worries." It was probably as simple as that. I'm sort of it wasn't a lot of. He just seems like that. He's that type of player to coach. He's wonderful to coach. He's just got a great temperament, and that's the thing we've been really pleased with about him. He comes in and just does any role. He's just he's low key. He just goes about his business and does it so well, does it so effectively and efficiently. He's really admired by his teammates because of how he goes about his business. He had a great pre-season. He played essentially in midfield, and he's done some midfield roles for us this season and been really good at it. And then when we've asked him to do forward roles on smalls or talls like he did on the weekend, he's able to do that with a minimum amount of fuss. He just goes about his business, and just as a coach, you just appreciate that so much, and his teammates really appreciate the job he's able to do.
When you look at deploying a tagging role on the weekend, is that kind of a guarantee with James, or is it just it comes around? No, we haven't done it all season. So we've done it at different times, and but we haven't done it all season. There's others that we can do different jobs with. I mean, traditionally over the years, for a long time, we've always had players that can play roles, whether it's Ryan Clark or others over the years. It sort of hasn't gone in or out of favour here. It's been pretty consistent over the years, but. If we feel like something else needs to be done in a structural sense for that particular game, that's what we'll go to. We tend to have a bit of flexibility in that regard. We don't go in with, we have to do that particular thing this week. We'll go in, look at the opposition, understand what their strengths are, and then make a decision from there. Talking about structure, is there a worry if you lose Errol or you lose Chad at the midfield, that kind of engine room falls apart a bit?
I think that's in any team. Any good players, if you miss them, you'd like to be able to not have them missing games. I think that goes to standard across the competition. Any good players, you like to have them rather than not have them. So I'm not going to sit here and say what we're going to be worried about. We worry about a lot of things, but it's no point worrying about the things you can't control. And part of that is we think we've got some great depth in our midfield too. And we think that adds to our ability to be able to cover things if needed, but also understanding that we appreciate our best players playing. I think every team does that.
Tell me this, in terms of the full house, I think the red zone was, it was almost the hottest ticket in town. What that meant to the team, just having packed SCG absolutely humming at the moment?
Oh, it's been incredible. I've been here for a long time, and I've seen some wonderful crowds at the SCG, seeing some of the best players that we've had over a long time, and it's always been highly valued. This year it feels like it's gone to another level. The amount of sellouts that we're getting, the supporters getting here so early to watch the game, their voice in the second quarter, even when we hadn't kicked a goal. I think we were 0-5 at some point in the second quarter, and they started roaring, and their sense of moment and what the team can do and how they can do it and how they can contribute to that has been really noticeable this season. They've been unbelievable. The players have really appreciated our crowd.
Do you think it's the Sydney crowd, they're connecting really well to this young group? Also, with some of the veterans, just there is that connectivity between the fans and this group?
Absolutely, there's no question with that. And we've got a younger group coming through now, and there's a lot of them, and it seems like the Sydney crowd are really connecting with, and our supporters are really connecting with that younger group coming through. And there's not one particular player, there's a lot of them that are coming through that are appreciated by our fans, and I know our players really appreciate our fans and what they're doing to their footy club at the moment. It's just fantastic.
You talk about the maturity of this group in terms of making sure there's no complacency going forward with 2 games ahead, a game in hand, and a massive percentage boost. I mean, it could be easy to look forward, but how much trust do you have in this group over what they've done in the past couple of years to make sure they're still thinking week by week? Yeah,
we're learning still. We've got we still have a large part of our team 24 and under, so we're still learning, and sometimes those lessons can be hard lessons, but you also need to be mindful that we are improving in that aspect, and that's what I'm confident is the longer the season goes, is that we're just going to keep learning, keep improving. Our younger players during the courses of games at different times have been challenged many times and have been able to steady and come back, and that's been really pleasing. We're not going to get it right every time, and I think that's important to say, that we're not going to get it right all the time, and there'll be mistakes that we'll make, and we'll have to go back to the drawing board at different times. But during the games, we've been able to do that. We've been able to have our flexibility and have been able to adapt. That's been a good sign. So, hopefully that progresses as the season or the back end of the season goes on.
And just quickly on the team for this week, obviously Brady Campbell got limited minutes again. Could it be a case of game in the VFL, Robbie Fox potentially coming back or something like that as well?
Yeah, we'll look at how the team looks this week. We'll see how Foxy trains tomorrow. Coming back from his shoulder, he's certainly fit enough. He's done all the running, so it'll just be about how he goes in the contests, and we'll work that out at training tomorrow. But we're mindful of that. We're mindful of making sure we've got good depth in our playing group as well.
And Millsy started his training block?
Yeah, so he's in a training block now. He's back in the team training, so hopefully he gets a good couple of weeks under his belt.
How far away do you reckon? It's hard to say. Obviously.
It's hard to say at the moment. He needs a good training block, and he's been pulling up well from the training he's done at the moment. The next couple of weeks he'll really ramp that up, and we'll see how he goes. Hopefully he keeps on pulling up well.